Drawdown, suspension, and Roth dump, all on today's FednaBabble.
This is FednaBabble, where Kevin and Cassie make federal retirement benefits understandable for humans like you. These two don't hold back as they answer questions from the Fed Pilot workshops and webinars, or from questions submitted by you at fednababble.com.
Welcome, I'm Cassie Knight, and we're here to answer your questions on today's FednaBabble.
I'm Kevin Jones, and let's take a look at question number 1. If I draw money from Social Security, almost makes Social Security sound like a bank. If I draw it from the Social Security bank, how much money will they take away from my retirement? If I draw money from Social Security, how much money will they take away from my retirement? None.
None? Jinx.
Dang. Yeah, I mean, when you say retirement, if we're talking about pension, take away from my pension, the answer is none. They don't affect each other.
However, if they're talking about a special retirement supplement, which they may be, then Social Security, they don't take money away from your retirement, though. They don't take money specifically from your special retirement supplement. Well, if they're drawing money from Social Security, they wouldn't be eligible for the special retirement supplement.
That's true.
So anyways.
That's right. 62 special retirement supplement. Yeah, a special retirement supplement is only $262, and Social Security is only after or 62 and after. So those don't. They can't take it away from your TSP.
Your Social Security, right? They don't have an effect on each other. Now, if you are a reemployed annuitant, then that's a whole nother ballgame, and we're not going to get into that because
that's very few people, and it's confusing. At that point. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so there's an easy one that we can just say, it doesn't take any money away from your retirement. Okay.
No.
Okay.
You're good.
Sounds good. All right. Question number 2 then. Should I suspend FEHB if I have CHAMP VA? And I think that should be a capital A. But anyways, why don't you, Cassie, if you would, explain what CHAMP VA is? Okay.
CHAMP VA is medical coverage for a spouse or dependent of I wouldn't say an employee, but of someone who is receiving VA benefits. Okay, so if they've separated from military service or gone out on a disability or something like that, and they have VA benefits, then their spouse or dependent children can have CHAMP VA. That's what that is.
So should you suspend FEHB? Now, suspending FEHB can be done if you have TRICARE or CHAMP VA. So it can, for regular FERS employees, I hear FERS employees say, I can suspend it. Well, yeah, if you have TRICARE or CHAMP VA, and there's others, but when it comes to this, regular FERS employees you can't just suspend FEHB, but in this case you can.
They can. If they have Medicare
Part C. Right. Which rarely do people
We're not going to get into that. So there are exceptions. However, when you have FEHB and you have CHAMP VA, you can suspend it. Whether you should or not is a different story. Okay?
Right. That's always a good question. Can you? Yes. No. There's an answer there, but should you? That's completely different.
Exactly. I don't know what the VA coverage looks like in this person's particular area or anything like that as far as, what those limitations are and if that's a good idea or not. The bottom line is, yes, they can suspend it, but if they should suspend it, I don't know. I can't answer this this person's specific information, I can't say it, specific question.
There you go.
Because
there
we
you
don't
go.
know all the details of their situation.
Right.
But that's why it's very encouraged to check out, go to fednababble.com and submit some information so that way.
That one doesn't depend. Sorry, wrong button there. But yes.
And let us connect you with one of our advisors in our trusted network so that way we can get you these questions answered specifically for your situation, and also get you some numbers to base off of, whether it's a good idea or not financially as well.
Yeah, you got to kind of really just with not only with this decision, but with a whole bunch of others, take a look at the whole list, the whole thing. Looking at these one by one doesn't do you any good. Answering this one by one, because one benefit affects another one, which dominoes to another one, which dominoes to another one. And so it's important to take a look at the bigger picture rather than just one.
My aunt called me the other day.
Yeah. And
she was a federal employee for about 12 years. And she also had some reserve service, and her husband's a federal employee, and he's still in service, and he's looking at actually doing an immediate retirement here in a few years. And she was like, okay, so what happens when he retires? Do I get anything? And how do I buy back my military service? And had all of these different questions. I was like, slow down, Auntie Ma'am. We have to take a look at this. Okay, here's how that's going to, and then she was like, well, what if we move out of state and we do all this? And she just had a ton of questions. And I said, okay, one thing at a time. First off,
right.
Here's how we would buy back your military service, because even though you've separated, you can still buy back your military service, right? And I'll email you the process for that. And then if he does take a job out of state, then this is how it affects his high 3. But then you also have to think about these other factors too, what does that look like for how much you can contribute to your TSP, and what does that look like for your survivor spouse benefit, because that could be different and you don't elect that until you're actually retiring. And we just had to really strategize all of these different things for them. And I was
very good.
You have to think about, you are getting a pension, because she was like, I'm not retiring, so I don't get a pension from the government. And I was like, do you have more than 5 years of service? She's like, yeah, I have 12. I said, okay, then you actually do, right? You have to think about what that looks like. So you get the pension, he's got his. What does that look like for you guys for FEHB, for your TSP? Because she's like, we're going to lose X amount of dollars in his income now. I said, yeah, but are you really losing that? Or can you contribute that to your TSP and gain on that? Because then you're earning money through, your percentages and the growth and everything. So are you really losing that? And this is the kind of things that people don't really look at. I said, stop focusing on the income that he's going to lose, because it may put you in a position to where you can later on set yourself up in a better financial situation.
Good. I love that.
So I think people really have to consider every single piece of their benefit, not just what's happening with this benefit or that benefit.
Yep.
They all work together, and let's figure out what that bigger picture looks like.
That's a great example. And I'm going to add one more thing to that, if I could, that you made me think of. So that was a great example of, you got to look at everything all together. But I would also add that not only should a federal employee look at the bigger picture, but so should their spouse. Because their spouse is going to have different questions. They're looking at it from a different perspective. And honestly, I hadn't thought about this before, and I don't know why I hadn't, but spouses of federal employees should be watching FedNababble as well, so that they can learn about this. This is a great way to trickle knowledge for your spouse so they can get introduced to this. Yeah, should they also come to go to a workshop or things like that? I think they should. But this is a great introduction if they were able to watch these shows here. Absolutely. To get introduced to all the complicated things that are going on, and start asking the questions now rather than at the end saying, well, why didn't we do that in the first place? Well, what about this? Let's figure that out as a couple now.
Absolutely. And I'm being the spouse of a federal employee, I understand what those different perspectives are. You don't understand any of their benefits.
Right.
Right. And so if you are a spouse of a federal employee and you have questions, please submit them. And, line out what it is that you don't understand so we can really help you have an understanding. And as a matter of fact, that was one of my reasons for starting in this specific role. Was as a federal spouse myself, I had taken a class and I thought, oh my goodness, people need to know about this, right? Like they simply don't understand all of these different benefits. I mean, I don't know how many other federal employees and spouses that I had talked to, and they said, we get what? We get a spousal benefit at retirement? I mean, they didn't even know that part, right? And I thought, I want to educate not only federal employees, but their spouses as well, because it's important for us to understand how that's going to financially affect us later on.
Yep. So, absolutely. It's okay. We could go on and on about that. I think that's great and so true. All right. That's question number 2. Question number 3, how about putting all TSP from here on out into my Roth TSP? So this person, I think, just from one of my workshops learned about the Roth TSP and was all excited and said, what if I took, and obviously you cannot take money that you put into your traditional TSP already and move it into the Roth TSP. You can't do that. But from this point on, should I just, so I can avoid taxes, can I just put it all into my Roth TSP from this point on? What do you think, Cassie?
I mean, you can. Absolutely.
Well, but should you?
I don't know. However, did you help? Okay, let me back up. Did you help them understand that their contributions might be Roth, but their match will not be?
Right. So all match goes into traditional anyway. So it actually doesn't all go into Roth no matter what. Exactly.
But it does help when you have different buckets of money that you can pull from, whether it's taxable or non-taxable. Is Roth the best solution if you're looking at non-taxable money? That depends, right? How old are you? How much are you looking at contributing? Is there, an index policy, like an index universal life policy or something like that could be more beneficial for you if you're looking at non-taxable income, right? So I really think that this is one of those it depends scenarios, and you have to really talk with an advisor about it.
Yep. This is a huge one for an advisor. I can't stress this enough. If you do this right, it is possible to save tens of thousands of dollars in taxes that you can use yourself.
That's right.
Right there. That is, if you get some help and do this right, that is tens of thousands extras of dollars. And I totally butchered the way I said that, but that a federal employee could use in retirement. For people to just pass that up and say, you know what, I'm just going to guess, and then get it wrong, I'm thinking, oh my goodness. Especially when, again, go to fednababble.com, sign up, get Cassie's report, talk to one of the advisors in our trusted network. They'll talk about this kind of stuff. And it's free, no cost, no obligation. And you can talk about and get this kind of advice on it. Oh my goodness. That's huge for later on in retirement.
And we might have other solutions for you too. And like I said, it just depends on your situation, what buckets of money you have elsewhere, and what your benefits look like. And really, the bottom line is, what benefits do you have? Where are those at? And then let's move on from there to create the picture that you need and want in retirement. So,
if you would, please take the information you have, take the channel here, like it, subscribe, follow it, whatever it takes. And then, of course, share it with your spouse. Share it with your coworkers. share it with everyone and just say you've got to go learn this, because this can have this information can have a huge effect on you in retirement, for good or bad, depending on how you do it.
That's right. That's right.
And
so take action, and just remember that no action is still taking action. So
Yes.
you could choose to not do anything, or you could choose to go to fednabible.com and request a report from us. We'll get you in touch with one of our advisors from our trusted network to get you that report and make sure that you're answering all of their questions. And just so we're clear, we are making sure that these folks can help you with anything that you need. Okay. First off, they're going to get you the report, no cost, no obligation, right? They're going to get the information for you. They're going to get you that report, and then see if there's any continued help that they can serve you with, that they can help you with. Because ultimately, you can't do anything until you find out where you're starting from. So let's help you figure that out. Okay. Go to fednabible.com and check us out. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Take care, everyone. See you next time.
To get Cassie's comprehensive report on your federal retirement benefits at no cost, no obligation, and no sales pitch, go to fednababble.com. While you're there, submit a question for them to answer on the show.